Some days in history are more than just another date on the calendar. They're pivot points, these moments where everything changes. May 10th, 1994 was absolutely one of those days. In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into Nelson Mandela's inauguration as South Africa's first black president, and we'll use his own words from his incredible autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, to really get what a massive shift this one day truly was.
And these were the words that Nelson Mandela spoke to the world. What a powerful promise, right? It just perfectly captured the hope and the sheer historical weight of that moment. It was a declaration that the long, dark night of oppression was finally over, and a brand new day was dawning.
So let's set the scene. Picture this. It's Pretoria, May 10th. Mandela describes the day as dawning bright and clear. The ceremonies themselves, they took place in this beautiful sandstone amphitheatre at the Union Buildings, which is, the very heart of the country's government.
And the symbolism of the location itself is just staggering. For decades, the Union Buildings had been the absolute seat of white supremacy. But on this day, Mandela looked out and saw it as the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors and nations, all there to witness the birth of a democratic, non-racial government. What a change.
And make no mistake, this was a global event. The inauguration had politicians and dignitaries fly in from more than 140 countries. Mandela actually notes that it was the largest gathering of international leaders ever on South African soil. It was like the whole world was there, welcoming a new South Africa back into the fold after so many years of isolation.
But here's the thing. To really grasp the unbelievable joy of that day, we have to understand the profound darkness that came before it. This celebration was only possible because they had overcome one of the most brutal systems of the 20th century. That system was called Apartheid. It was a political structure specifically designed to separate people by race, creating this rigid hierarchy that was the foundation for one of the harshest, most inhumane societies the world had ever seen.
This really puts that long struggle into perspective. In the very first decade of the 20th century, the system was built. And then, in the very last decade of that same century, after generations of unimaginable sacrifice, it was finally torn down for good.
Mandela doesn't sugarcoat the cost of this system at all. He calls it a profound hurt, a deep and lasting wound that he knew would take his country and his people many, many years, maybe even generations, to heal from.
And yet, in all this darkness, Mandela saw something incredible, a strange paradox. He argued that those decades of brutality had this unintended effect. They forged leaders of unbelievable character, people like Oliver Tambo and Walter Sisulu. He believed these men, who he said were finer and truer than any diamond, were his country's absolute greatest wealth.
Okay, so let's get back to that inauguration day. The air was just filled with all these symbols of this hard-won unity and reconciliation. Just imagine this moment. The highest-ranking generals of the military and the police, their chests covered in medals from the old regime, they all saluted Mandela and pledged their loyalty to the new, freely elected democracy.
And Mandela himself was so acutely aware of the incredible irony. He notes that just a few years earlier, these exact same men would not have saluted him. They would have arrested him on sight. It was this stunning personal and national transformation, all wrapped up in a single gesture. Just incredible.
The day was also symbolized by the playing of two national anthems. You had whites singing Nkosi Sikelel' Africa, the anthem of the liberation movement, while blacks sang Die Stem, the old, hated anthem of the Republic. Mandela recalls that on that day, neither group really knew the lyrics they once despised, but he knew they would soon learn them by heart.
So in his big inaugural address, Mandela didn't just look back at the past. No, he laid out a really clear vision and a solemn pledge for the future of his nation.
He framed all that suffering of the past as the very thing that would forge a better future. He said that from this extraordinary human disaster, a new society had to emerge, one that all of humanity could look to with genuine pride.
His pledge was ambitious for sure, but it was crystal clear. He committed his new government to liberating all South Africans from what he called the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, and any kind of discrimination, whether it was based on gender or anything else. Political freedom for him was just the beginning.
But Mandela's reflections went even deeper than that, beyond just politics, to the very nature of what it even means to be free. And this is where his philosophy becomes something we can all learn from.
He actually traces his own understanding of freedom. As a boy, it was just the simple freedom to run and play. As a student, it was about personal, transitory freedoms, like staying out late.
As a young man, it was about achieving his potential. But he slowly came to realize that his own freedom was completely tied to the freedom of everyone who looked like him. And his personal hunger for freedom? It became a greater hunger for the freedom of all his people.
And this led him to this incredibly powerful realization. Freedom is indivisible. He couldn't truly enjoy the few freedoms he had while knowing his people were not free. As he said, he felt their chains as if they were his own.
And this brings us to his most profound insight, really. Mandela argued that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. Think about that. A man who takes away another's freedom, he said, is a prisoner of hatred, locked behind bars of prejudice. In his view, both are robbed of their humanity.
Which leaves us with this final powerful question, doesn't it? Through his long walk, Nelson Mandela showed the entire world that true freedom isn't just about breaking your own chains. It's about recognizing and restoring the humanity in everyone, both the oppressed and, yes, even the oppressor. And that's a definition of freedom that is absolutely worth all of us reflecting on.